James never believed in ghosts, but on his first night at St. Mark's Hospital, he learned the hard way. Some places refuse to be forgotten. Some horrors never fade. It was supposed to be an easy job, just a routine security shift at St. Mark's Hospital, an abandoned medical facility on the outskirts of town. James had worked security gigs before, but there was something unsettling about this place. The city had condemned it years ago, but rumors persisted about why it had really been shut down. Some said strange experiments were conducted in the lower floors. Others claimed the hospital staff simply vanished overnight. James didn't believe in ghosts, but as he stepped through the broken entrance doors, the air itself seemed heavier, pressing against him like an unseen force. His radio crackled to life. "Check in every hour, James. Don't let the local kids mess around in there," his supervisor Craig said. "Copy that," James muttered, his voice sounding small in the vast emptiness of the hospital. The halls stretched into darkness, the flickering emergency lights casting long, twitching shadows. Graffiti marred the walls, remnants of those who had dared enter before him. He adjusted his flashlight and took a deep breath. His shift had begun. First signs. At first, everything was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that rang in James's ears. He checked the first few floors, nothing but dust-covered hospital beds and old, rusting equipment. He made his way to the main security room, where a dozen ancient monitors flickered, displaying grainy black and white footage of the hospital's interior. That's when he saw it. A figure standing in the hallway near the children's ward. James squinted at the screen. The figure didn't move, just stood there, barely visible in the static haze of the footage. He tapped the monitor, but the screen remained the same. Something about the figure unnerved him. It was too tall, its limbs too long, the proportions off. His radio crackled. "James, you there?" It was Craig. James swallowed, forcing his voice to stay steady. "Yeah, I'm here. Just checking the cameras." A long pause. Then Craig's voice came again, but it sounded different, fainter, distorted. "Leave?" James grabbed the radio. "What? Craig, say again." Static. Then silence. The children's ward. A slow chill crawled down James's spine, but he wasn't the kind to run at the first sign of something weird. He grabbed his flashlight and made his way toward the children's ward. The air grew colder the closer he got. His breath misted in the dim light. The old murals on the walls, once cheerful depictions of smiling animals, now looked sinister in the flickering glow of his flashlight. He stepped into the ward and immediately felt a presence, the feeling of being watched. Then, a giggle. James spun, shining his flashlight into the dark corners of the room. The sound had been soft, almost playful. But there was no one here, just rows of empty, decayed hospital beds. He turned back toward the hallway when something caught his eye. One of the hospital beds had moved. It had been against the far wall when he entered. Now it was closer. Another giggle. This time, James ran. The basement. His footsteps echoed as he fled down the hallway, his heart hammering in his chest. He reached the main security room, slamming the door shut behind him. He grabbed the radio. "Craig, if you can hear me, something's in here with me. I need backup now." Silence. Then, ever so faintly, a voice whispered through the radio. "Basement." James froze. The basement was off limits. The city had sealed it off when the hospital shut down. No one was supposed to be able to go down there. But as he stared at the security monitors, he saw something chilling. One of the cameras showed the basement door, wide open. Something moved in the shadows beyond it. James gritted his teeth. He wanted to leave, to abandon this stupid job and never look back. But his feet carried him forward. He had to know what was down there. He reached the basement stairs. The air smelled of mold and something metallic. Blood? Step by step, he descended into the dark. The experiment room. The basement was colder than the rest of the hospital. The walls were lined with rusting gurneys and shattered medical equipment. James's flashlight flickered, struggling to hold back the darkness. Then he saw the operating table. Leather straps dangled from its sides as if someone had been restrained there. Papers lay scattered across the floor, detailing horrific experiments. Dates from decades ago, mentions of patients that had never been discharged. The whispers returned, louder now. Then he saw them, figures in the darkness. They stood in the corners of the room, barely visible, watching, waiting. James took a step back, his breath ragged. The figures didn't move, but the shadows behind them did. Something unseen whispered his name. Then the lights went out. The chase. James bolted. He ran through the basement corridors, the air thick with something unnatural. The whispers turned into laughter, mocking, childlike. The shadows twisted, reaching for him, fingers clawing out from the walls. He stumbled up the stairs, gasping for breath. When he reached the main floor, he slammed the basement door shut and bolted it. The laughter stopped. The silence was worse. Then, the security monitors flickered back on. James turned slowly. The screens showed every hallway of the hospital. Every single screen had the same image. The tall, twisted figure standing inches behind him. The escape. James didn't think. He just ran. He sprinted through the halls, past the children's ward, past the empty beds that seemed to shift when he wasn't looking. He could see the main entrance now, just ahead. Then, the doors slammed shut. James skidded to a stop, yanking at the handles. Locked. A breath tickled the back of his neck. He turned slowly. The woman stood there. The same one he had seen in the security footage. Her eyes hollow. Her mouth stretched into an unnatural grin. The last thing James heard before everything went dark was his own name, whispered in a voice that was not his own. The next shift. The next night, a new security guard arrived at St. Mark's Hospital. He checked in with his radio. "This is Officer Ryan, checking in for duty." Static. Then, faintly, a voice replied, "Run." The security feed flickered, and in the grainy footage of the hospital's entrance, James stood, smiling in the darkness,